between Bill Jenkins and Ron Aubert. Today is April the 7th, 2016, and so I'm very much looking forward to it.
Okay. So your parents migrated from Louisiana to California.
So my father's from Louisiana, my mother's from Texas.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, but so the
Okay.
name is from southern Louisiana.
Yeah, right. That's what
Way bottom of the state.
Right.
Houma, Louisiana, Houma.
All right.
To
Okay.
be exact.
Yeah.
It's almost swamp. Everybody there has a fishing boat
Yeah.
and works on the oil rigs.
Ah. Oh. Okay. Okay.
And my grandfather was a shipyard worker,
Huh.
which is what he did in Houma at the time.
Mm-hmm. So you went back there during the summer and
I did.
stuff like that?
Well, I went back there just to visit.
Yeah.
For like a big family reunion, because my grandparents, my father's side, migrated to Los Angeles when my father was in high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my grandparents lived in Los Angeles as well.
Oh, okay. So by the time you came along, they were really
Yeah,
California people.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, right. Yeah, and I never did know the exact sequence, whether that was an adjustment or whether that was home.
Yeah.
So-
I grew up. I was born there and grew up in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay, okay. And so you went to public schools early on, and then
Right. And then when I was between my junior high school and high school, I was offered a scholarship to a prep school in San Marino, California, which is near Pasadena. Which is not far from Los Angeles, but it's completely world away in a lot of ways. Because I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, and all that goes along with that.
Yeah, right.
At that time.
Yeah.
And so, that was a major adjustment.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I had put that in Arizona, but it was in Southern California.
So that's pretty good actually, because it had two campuses. They had a campus in Arizona, and then one in the main campus was in San Marino. I spent time at both campuses.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. That's where I got that from.
Yeah, the one in Arizona was on a ranch. It was in outside of Sedona, a small little area called Rimrock, Arizona.
Oh, yeah. I know Rimrock.
So, aesthetically, very, very beautiful.
Yeah, right.
Extremely isolated.
Right.
And that was a very different experience as well. But it was one that I came to appreciate and enjoy in terms of just understanding and being around nature and all that goes with that.
So how much time did you spend at the ranch part?
Spent a year and a half at each.
Oh, okay.
Pretty much split my time evenly.
Uh-huh.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, maybe a little less than a year and a half at Arizona, but close. So it was
Right.
almost an equal split.
So that meant you have brothers and sisters?
Sure, I have 3 sisters and had 2 brothers. One brother died
Yeah.
when I was in college, and then
Right.
I have another brother.
Right. So that made you not estranged, but somewhat separated from your siblings.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's but at that, it was interesting because my parents, of course, are first generation college. My parents, my mother's 8th grade education, and my father didn't go to high school, and so I was first generation college, and so there's still, and probably through the extended family, so it was like a big deal, and people were like excited and thought I was doing something big, so it was like always got a hero's welcome.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's out there doing something really different.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how did you end up at Oakland? What was that process?
So that's I found out about Oberlin. I did a summer at Phillips Academy, and that was a total serendipitous opportunity as well. I just found I think my sister, who was at Crenshaw High School in South Central Los Angeles, brought a brochure home that we made distributed at the school. I picked it up and thought it sounded interesting, looked interesting. They had a summer program, and they offered scholarship support for the summer.
Right.
And so I applied to that. And the guy who was the counselor there had a very sophisticated counseling program. All these campuses, all these schools came on campus. He had this college overview and sessions during a certain time of the day in the graveyard. Phillips, that's where he organized. It was in the cemetery, right? So it was very the whole thing was very interesting. And that was really my first exposure to schools like Oberlin, Williams, Amherst, Swarthmore, all these smaller schools, as well as Ivy League schools and the Dukes, and all these schools that I never really, because I'm from the West Coast, and so, but the person from Oberlin was very impressive, and I got really excited about the tradition and history of the school, and they were really good about following up, and they had a little mixer in Los Angeles with some Oberlin alumni and the guy from the admissions office, and it just seemed like it might be a good fit for me. So I applied, again, not ever have lived outside of California or Arizona, and had never gone that far for anything. So, but I saw it as like an adventure. I always had this idea of wanting to see different parts of the world. So this was the first step. So most schools I applied to were out of California.
I see. Okay.
Applied to Swarthmore, Williams, Brown, Oberlin, Stanford, and then a couple other California schools.
So your sister brought home the brochure, but she didn't apply?
No, she wasn't. She didn't seem to be that interested. She didn't want to give up her summer, I guess. I was curious. And I was And I didn't understand that it was a prep school at the time. I thought it was a college. Because you look at the brochure. It's probably bigger than Oberlin.
Looks sophisticated, right?
So I thought it was like a summer college program. It's just how little I really understood and knew about the sort of prep school elite. It was a total different experience there too.
Yeah, it's interesting. Diane went through the same thing. Her parents wanted her brother to go to Northfield Mount Herman. They brought the brochure, and he didn't want to go. Diane said, "I'll go."
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
So exactly.
Right. So then you chose Oberlin.
I chose Oberlin.
And what were you thinking you were going to, what career did you have in mind when you went?
I thought I was probably going to do like pre-law.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, not knowing exactly what that was. I knew what a lawyer was.
Yeah.
A lot of people had to utilize them.
Right, yeah.
From where I grew up. But I didn't know what it took to sort of become a lawyer. But I thought that was what I wanted to do. Because I had this idea about justice and having things improved and that sort of thing. And when I took political science, I was like... it just did not stick with me. I couldn't. I mean, the readings I didn't find that interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I was too immature for the content at that time. And but I was always fascinated by science. And I was a decent science student at the time. When I was in high school.
Right.
And so I switched to biology after my sophomore year.
Okay. And did you have a minor?
African American Studies.
Oh, okay.
And that was great too. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of us go to school thinking we're going to be lawyers until we get the experience and say, "Oh no, I don't think so." So you majored in biology. So there must have been some pressure. Maybe is too strong a word for medical school.
So that's because that's what everybody else was doing.
Yeah,
so
right.
You sort of think, well, that's kind of what I'll do.
Right.
And so the challenge there, I started the major late. So I didn't have all the pre-med requirements. I still had physics I had to take. And so by the time I was facing graduation. So what I thought I would do, I didn't really have a clue, but a friend of mine really good friend of mine had spent the summer at UNC. They used to have this this pre-med prep program in the summer.
Right.
And he came back and he said, "Man, you should check out the School of Public Health. They got one of the best in the country, and they do some interesting things over there." I guess he must have ran into some students who were public health students when they were here for the summer.
Right.
I said, "All right,
yeah,
good idea."
So you applied to UNC. Did you apply? Oh, wait a minute, just to make sure. So you came here for the summer program?
No. So
okay.
So all right. So then I went to the career counseling office and I started to look through the catalog.
Right.
Still didn't have a sense of what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just started looking at the different. So at UNC you get to apply to the department.
Yeah.
Some places you just apply to the school.
Right.
And you're in the public health program. But this one you have to apply to the department, so I had to figure out a department. And so I started just kind of reading up on what the different departments were, and picked epidemiology. Environmental science sounded pretty good also, but I decided to just stay with epidemiology because it sounded interesting. Didn't know anybody who did anything like that. I asked some of our biology professors what that meant. Nobody really knew. But it seemed like it seemed interesting, and I liked the word, so. So I decided to apply to epidemiology. And this is a story that people like to tell. And I wanted to come see the place and get a feel for, just kind of talk to faculty and stuff like that. And so I saw the baseball team was going to be on a spring trip to North Carolina. So I joined the baseball team so I could make the trip down. So I played baseball my senior year. Everybody thinks it's a really impressive story, but this is over.
Yeah, right. That's true.
Anybody could. You can wear the hat. You can try to make the team.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
no offense to the current team.
Yeah.
We were actually playing pretty well down.
Yeah.
But that was, you
yeah.
get the team. So.
Yeah. I'm always surprised at how many people from Oberlin I know. Because they're.
Yeah. It's an interesting place. It was a tremendous experience for me. It was a good fit. It was the right scenario for me. A lot of people say, "Wow, how did you leave Los Angeles and go to a school that's in the middle of cornfields?" But it was a great town. It was a very vibrant, active, progressive place, both in the town and in the college.
Okay.
And that was so. I some of my closest friends to this day are people that I met in college. And so it's been a tremendous run in that respect.
Yeah. So you applied and got in. And
those were the good old days.
Yeah.
Because almost everybody that was admitted was giving training money.
Yeah.
That was pre, / all the educational stuff, and so there was no financial stress. And after the first semester, I just really this whole idea of being responsible for communities, for a population, this idea of the health of the population was just sort of totally captured my imagination in a way that medicine didn't.
Yeah.
And so because my thought was to get a master's degree and apply to medical school. I took the physics course while I was in my first year, and then I just had no interest in doing anything other than learning more about epidemiology and public health.
Okay. So what was we're getting into experience here at UNC. So individuals and experiences that.
Yeah. So I had a good experience here. My advisor was Ed Wagner.
Oh, yeah.
Who went on to start the Health Outcomes Research Group at
Group Health.
There we go.
Group Health.
Yeah, Group Health in Seattle.
Yeah.
And was really one of the premier figures in health services research. And that was, and even though I didn't know what that was at the time, that exposure became so much more relevant for me later.
Yeah.
So I'll hopefully I remember to mention. But and then I worked with Steve Wing on the Evans County cohort in my master's thesis was looking at some work related to systolic hypertension in Evans County. And
Evans County, Georgia.
Evans County, Georgia.
I didn't know Steve worked with Evans County.
Yeah, Steve did. Steve came here, and there was this huge cohort that was started.
Oh yeah.
That preceded us.
Right.
And so Steve, I think Steve's master's project, maybe his district. I can't remember about the dissertation included Evans County or not. But that was the data set a lot of people were using.
Oh yeah.
For secondary data analysis. And so I got plugged into that.
Yeah. Ham used to come up when I was a student.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we used to get a chance to talk to him. Interesting guy.
Yeah, everybody says that.
Yeah.
I think I was at a meeting with him once.
Oh, okay.
Very interesting.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And then I worked with Sherman James.
Okay.
When I was here, I worked on a lot of different projects. So I was one of the things that I really enjoyed about the experience is there was always stuff to do. So I worked as a research assistant on a project for Sherman James and worked with Dave Strogatz on that. I worked in School of Medicine with a project with Maria Schmidt. Part of her dissertation project had a lab component. Maria was a doctoral student here at the time. And her and Bruce are in Brazil now and have done tremendous work in Brazil over the last 25, 30 years. And then my dissertation advisor was Gerardo Heiss.
Oh, okay.
And so I started working with Gerardo after about my third year here. The biggest challenge for me was just trying to figure out a dissertation topic. And because I was interested in so many different things and trying to find something that you can sort of stay with and have some interest in over the duration of the project was the biggest challenge for me. So I started working with Heiss. And then that's when I met you in the student lounge.
Yeah, that's right.
And then
What year was that? When was that? Remember?
what year? That must have been. What year did I go to CDC? 86. So it must have been like 1983. So that dates everybody.
Yeah, because I was just turning in my dissertation in '83.
And so you just happened to be in town.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then I guess that's when you were starting. Maybe you had started the program in Atlanta, the MOTEP program.
Oh, I started that in '81.
Okay, so
But it was still,
right.
in its infancy.
So you asked me what was doing for the summer. So I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have any plans. So you asked if I'd be interested in doing that. Never been to Atlanta. So that was absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I came down and worked with you in the program at CDC.
Right.
Did that for two
Oh, that's right.
years. I think.
Yeah, that's right.
And then,
Okay.
so that kind of introduced me to CDC
Right.
and all the folks there. So I met the Helene Gales and
Mhm.
Dusty. What's Dusty's last name? Sanders.
That's you would not believe Helene is getting married.
Yeah, somebody told me that. Which is great for her.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great for her.
Yeah.
I heard that. And so I was really impressed with that crowd.
Yeah, that was a
Like
good group.
What they were doing, and they would just those were like real thinkers.
Yeah.
And so that's how I got introduced and exposed to EIS.
Right.
And then that's how I decided when I left here, that's what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
So, I didn't have a lot of vision. Like a lot of people come in and I didn't do that. But I was open to pursuing things that sort of seemed fascinating to me and seemed interesting to me. I didn't have any inhibitions about giving it a shot. I didn't feel like I was wasting any time.
Yeah.
So that worked out. I ended up in EIS.
Mm-hmm.
Did that for 2 years, and that was great. I
Mhm.
think people don't understand that EIS is a little different than the rest of CDC because it functions in a way that's a lot more nimble. At least it did.
Right. Back then, yeah.
Yeah, back then, a lot more nimble.
Right.
And they get work nobody else gets.
That's right.
And
That's right.
So that was really exciting. Even if you're not, even just being a part of that experience, like the Tuesday or Wednesday morning seminars, you get exposed to so much stuff that's going on.
Right.
And that was a great thing for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it also appealed to the applied side, because I'm much more of an applied person than sort of the theoretical abstract.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't have been a good fit in trying to do an academic type of thing. And so that was a good introduction to applied epidemiology for me, and I had a great experience at CDC.
You know, because when early EIS types, you got a credit card, and if some outbreak occurred anywhere, you just got on a plane and go.
Exactly.
Today, that's not going to happen.
That's what everybody tells me. And I actually, we witnessed it when Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah.
You kept thinking, like, why isn't the CDC?
That's right. That's right.
So, like, it was like 3 or 4 days later.
Yeah.
And, like,
Yeah.
it was painful.
Right.
It was painful.
Yeah. Cuban physicians got there before EIS.
I was with a former EIS colleague, and a guy I used to work for at CDC.
Mm-hmm.
When all that happened, we were sitting in his kitchen watching this on television, and just absolutely dumbfounded.
Yeah.
There had been no response yet.
Right. Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
just so things that definitely the change started.
Yeah.
A while ago. And
Yeah.
That's unfortunate because that's not how it was. It was
Right.
It was the leading public health agency, especially for anything that was on the outbreak
Yeah.
side.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So that was good. That was a great experience for me.
Okay.
I enjoyed that tremendously.
So, are there any other experiences that you had during your time?
At CDC?
Yeah, or here, either one, that stood out in terms of direction for you?
Yeah, so everybody sort of helped shape me.
Mhm.
Everybody had in contact, I took something from.
Yeah,
I think.
right.
Because I didn't have a master plan or
Yeah.
a really laser focused vision. So I found most interactions and encounters an opportunity for me to learn something different.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah,
And,
right. Yeah.
So I think, but Sherman was great,
Mhm.
and just I thought, and Sherman, even years later, Sherman was put a lot of things in perspective, and I really worked to try and think about things in the way he thought about it in a meaningful way. So
Yeah.
one of the things that people get caught up on is just how many publications you get out.
Yeah,
Publications
right.
you get out. And so we were having this conversation. I think we were on a committee together. I was chair of which is another great opportunity. I was chair of a Robert Wood Johnson Technical Advisory Committee for diabetes self-management. And Sherman was on that committee. And we were having this conversation about publications. And, I guess I was in an environment where we're trying to publish more, and I was trying to figure out what's really reasonable. And he just started laughing. He said, if I can get 3 thoughtful publications a year,
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I don't really think I'm capable of doing much more than 3 thoughtful publications a year.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, that's a highly productive
Yeah.
period for me. So that was really interesting, because I think what gets left out when people start applying the pressure to publish. And I wasn't in an extreme pressure. My job was not dependent on the number, but you just kind of get caught up in trying to be productive and try to stay pace on some academic level. And but that just put a lot of things in perspective. And it really helped me think about the work that I was engaged in a much deeper and much more, trying to add a lot more meaning to it than just volume.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you're in an environment where you have luxury to do that.
Yeah, right,
So,
yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
good. So Dave Kleinbaum was another one.
Yeah.
Dave was a great teacher. I mean, what I liked about Dave is his passion was he wanted to be a good teacher. He wanted to be an educator.
Right.
He wanted people to be able to really grasp and learn the concepts and learn the material. And I took almost every class he had, probably. And I appreciated that because I think in a lot of ways there aren't, and I think Vic was like that too. He was very committed to being a good educator. I think that gets lost a lot in graduate school. I mean, there's so much pressure on just bringing in money as a researcher,
Right.
where the teaching is really minimized. And so, there's a philosophical point of view that I suppose, but for me that was important. Some people feel like when the students are smart enough, they should be able to learn the material, right? But I feel that I don't know. I value instruction. And I always tried to be more like that when I, stuff that we're doing at Morehouse School of Medicine, stuff that I used to do at Clark Atlanta University, at Emory. I always wanted to be a good teacher, a good educator. So I always spent a lot of time trying to prepare lectures and talks and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's important to me too. My mother was a great teacher.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And it's not that easy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
right.
People, and I think the problem, I mean, it's easy to try to minimize it in an environment like this because people are doing such esoteric, really complicated stuff. But it's not, it's not it's a talent. It's really, it's a real talent.
And a skill.
And this, exactly. And, Dave and Larry used to do this short courses.
That's right.
And then it became Dave and somebody else.
Cooper. Oh.
It was Larry Cooper. It used to be Dave and Larry, right?
Yeah.
And then when Dave moved to Emory, it became Dave and Mitch Klein. Mitch Klein. And even when I left and went to industry, I would have Dave and Mitch come in and do like the 3-day short courses just to get my team up to speed on some basic conceptual stuff. We did a whole module of stuff, and even in 3 days, you can see lights go off. People been doing things or might have learned stuff a while ago, and never really grasped it in the same way that they were able to when it's presented. With somebody who's like a master teacher.
Right. Yeah.
And so I've always had great respect for that.
Yeah, I think one of the greatest mistakes I've ever made is when David asked about helping him write a book on epidemiology. I told him I didn't have time.
You'd probably be in the 12th edition by now.
Yeah, right.
He's been extremely prolific.
Yeah.
Respect.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you go into business, and you start off.
So I left the CDC and I went to Prudential Healthcare.
Okay.
This was it was a health plan.
Oh.
Like Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina.
Okay.
Very same sort of thing. And it was a health plan that had I forget how many 4 million lives or so. It wasn't huge, but it wasn't small. It had a national representation. So we had plans on the West Coast, in the South, and on the Mid-Atlantic primarily. And the health outcomes group was being started by Bill Jenkins after he went to CDC. And Bill moved up in the company really fast.
Yeah, of course.
Jeff Copeland headed the health outcomes group. So I went to that group.
Okay.
And so that was easy. That was an easy transition because we were just doing public health stuff.
Right.
in a health plan. And so we were doing things like trying to improve immunization rates. People that were enrolled in the health plan.
Right.
We were doing and evaluating interventions. We were doing smoking cessation interventions and evaluating the impact of those. We were doing things like just removing barriers to prenatal care to reduce the rate of low birth weight infants. And we had the ability to sort of change the plan design in ways that would be advantageous for patients. And we had a Medicaid product or Medicaid plan in certain parts of the country. We did that. We were involved in things like identifying people who would benefit from nurse care management in Medicare, and doing a randomized trial to evaluate the impact of what we were doing. And I was involved in 2 randomized trials looking at strategies to improve diabetes management. And you know, those resulted in, one of those, the first one resulted in a very nice publication in the Annals of Internal Medicine. And the person that wrote the editorial for that was Ed Wagner.
Oh, okay.
And that was a surprise.
Yeah, right.
Because I didn't know that was happening until the issue came out. And he writes an editorial commenting on the publication. So that was everything kind of went full circle at that point.
Right.
So we're doing great stuff. When we got involved, I got involved in. I just been right before I left CDC. We were doing the economic evaluation. So I get involved in economic evaluation, so cost effectiveness type stuff. Because the guy who I reported to with the CDC, a guy named Bill Herman, was a big diabetes guy. And he was head of the economic evaluation group for the diabetes control and complications trial at UCCT. And he was the same guy that they had managed the economic evaluation team for the diabetes primary prevention trial. And so I got exposed to stuff that I had never been exposed to in graduate school. And that's kind of unfortunate in a way too, because I think there's such easy overlap between sort of epi methods and applying that to the evaluation of programs where you also consider the cost. And so that was so I learned a lot being in that group and working with those people. Those were skills that I was able to translate when I went to the health plan. It's always a consideration.
So one thing I was always curious about, why did you leave CDC to go to the health plan?
Well, because after the DCCT experience, I started getting more interested in translational work. That's not really what CDC was per se, other than fund state health departments and programs like that. So I really wanted to be involved in an environment where you had some skin in the game in terms of being responsible for the population. And so when I heard about what Bill and
Jeff Copeland
were trying to do at Prudential, I just got really excited about that. And they were looking for somebody in diabetes because the programs that I worked on in diabetes, those ideas came from the plan, from the physician group. There was a guy in Jacksonville, Florida, where we did the first study, who approached the health plan and said, "You guys got this health outcomes research group that you just started up." I said, "Well, how about helping us think about how to improve how we provide diabetes care?" Looking at only 4% of our population, 4% of our population, but they account for 20-some-odd% of our costs. He said, "I think we can certainly do a better job in terms of how we manage that." And so they were looking for somebody in diabetes. I was the diabetes section chief at the time, and so I thought this sounded like a great opportunity to actually get out there and do something an organization that had a skin in the game. They really were responsible for a population, and it was tremendous, because it was a soup to nuts experience for me, because I was involved in writing the protocols. I was involved in hiring the nurses, hiring the research assistants, creating as much value as we could in terms of making the data collection strategies simpler and all this thing, of all the quality assurance checks, setting up the data monitoring safety board for the trial, and working with the statistician to figure out the randomization scheme. It was really the first soup to nuts, really complicated study design that I've had to work on, and we got it done in a fairly short period of time. We went from probably recruitment to publication in about 26 months, which was incredible.
Yeah.
And so I was very excited about that.
Yeah, right. So one other thing I've been curious about for a long time. I couldn't imagine Bill Roper and Jeff Copeland working together. I'm two different personalities.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you know, they had a very good working relationship in
Ah.
the sense that that Bill respected Jeff a lot, and vice versa. And Bill's a very strategic thinker.
Yeah.
And so he was he rose to the ranks pretty quick.
Yeah.
So he was chief medical officer like pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so and Jeff came to understand and really tried to. We all learned a lot about just healthcare delivery, which you don't really know. You don't really get a sense of when you're in school. And determine how it gets financed, how it gets organized, how it gets delivered. All the complexity of it, you really don't have a sense of. You know? And this I think we all learned a tremendous amount by being in that environment. And Jeff came up to speed really quick. Jeff became really knowledgeable. You know, Jeff spent some time at Harvard. I think he got his master's at Harvard. Yeah. And so we had a tight collaboration with the folks in health policy there.
Oh, okay.
Like the Marty Epsteins and Paul Clearys and all these guys who really like the real policy gurus in a lot of different areas. And it was great. They learned a tremendous amount.
Yeah.
Same for them, because every time they did a project with us, they were like, wow, I never knew that. Didn't know that's how it worked.
Yeah.
So, and that was across the board experience. So it was never a dull moment.
Yeah,
So
right.
They had a very good working relationship.
And so how long did you stay there?
I was there for 6 years.
Okay.
And then Prudential got bought by U.S. Healthcare. That's what it was at the time.
Prudential got bought by Aetna?
Yeah. So Aetna got bought by U.S. Healthcare.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, other way around.
Okay.
U.S. Healthcare got bought by Aetna.